Looking at the polls, we can see that the gap between candidate Lee Jae-myung and candidate Kim Moon-soo is narrowing. Candidate Lee Jun-seok is on the rise. From this year, the release of poll results is prohibited. We now turn to reporter Min Ji-sook for an in-depth look at the final stretch of polling analysis. Reporter Min, with undecided voters shrinking and the conservative bloc consolidating, even the dominant front-runner's position appears shaky when the numbers are simply combined.
That's correct. Lee Jun-seok, representing the conservative bloc, is making a late surge by increasing his support in the capital region. As of MBN's first poll last week, even when combining the support rates of Kim Moon-soo and Lee Jun-seok, they still trailed Lee Jae-myung by 7.6 percentage points. Today's polling results reveal that the conservative bloc candidates are slightly ahead of candidate Lee Jae-myung.
However, since those numbers are merely added up, it seems premature to see it as a unification effect. For a unified effect, you'd need to win in a two-way race, but it seems like candidate Lee Jun-seok isn't under enough pressure to unify just yet, right?
Yes, the numbers aren't sufficient for him to step down for the sake of a conservative victory. Shall we take a look back at the most urgent unification in previous elections? One day before early voting and 6 days before the main election, candidate Ahn Cheol-soo withdrew. If you look at the poll results from that time, candidate Ahn's approval rating was around 12% just before he dropped out. And the race between Lee Jae-myung and Yoon Suk-yeol was neck and neck with just a 1-point gap.
However, after uniting with Ahn Cheol-soo, the combined results didn't increase but actually decreased by about 0.7 percentage points, suggesting it might decrease again this time.
Yes, by simple addition, Ahn Cheol-soo and Yoon Suk-yeol's support totaled 51%, so Yoon should have had a clear lead. But as you mentioned, the actual voting outcome showed little difference. It shows that not all of Ahn Cheol-soo's supporters, who once stood at around 12%, have shifted to Yoon's side. For candidate Lee Jun-seok, who is polling at around 9%, it's difficult to be confident that Kim would win even if they unify. However, if Kim does lose by a very slim margin, Lee, like candidate Shim Sang-jong during the last election, could face criticism from his own camp. But even if he unifies, Lee Jun-seok may face criticism for joining forces seen as pro-insurrection, putting him in a tough spot.
Yes, let's take a look at what's behind Lee Jun-seok's recent rise in support. It seems closely tied to the timing of the TV debates. Could that be the reason?
Yes, we recently surveyed viewers of the TV debates to see which candidate seemed more favorable. For candidates Lee Jae-myung and Kim Moon-soo, the numbers were lower than their support rates. But for candidate Lee Jun-seok, it was much higher at 19.2%. Certainly, the TV debate schedule seems to have positively influenced the public opinion regarding candidate Lee Jun-seok. Kwon Young-guk, a standout figure, received more attention than his poll numbers reflect.
Finally, the latest NBN poll asked about the need for vetting candidates' spouses. What did it reveal?
This election saw an unusual level of interest, even sparking discussions about spouse debates. However, public opinion on the need for scrutiny was somewhat divided. 32% said it's important to vet spouses' values and future roles. 28% said no vetting is needed, while 13% supported disclosing only basic information like assets and education.
With 3 days until early voting and 8 until the main election, thank you for the poll analysis. That's all for now. Min Ji-sook reporting.